Congressman Raul Grijalva, a Democrat from Arizona. Always good to see you, Congressman. Good morning.
Thank you. Good to hear from you.
Tell me your path. How does this deal get done?
Well, I think that the president outlined it perfectly well, that there has to be revenue generation, that we have to look at those top income brackets, the 1-2% in this country, and they have to pay their fair share. Without revenue generation, we're back to trying to cut our way out of this, and nobody wants those automatic cuts. And number two, it's a question of fairness. You can talk about loopholes, you can talk about doing other things, but it's not going to generate the revenue that's needed to soften the potential cuts and to also let us invest. And I think one of the investment areas is going to have to be job creation. But I think the president outlined it. We all hope he sticks to that. And I think the Republicans in the House have got to be the ones that come to the table with the understanding that there are indeed negotiations where every give and take, and not, this is what we're going to do, and you have to go along with it. That was the strategy for 2 years. I don't think it's applicable now. The American people have spoken. Our president's reelected, and they have to deal with his agenda as much as anything else.
Well, I don't need to tell you what their argument is, Congressman, and it has been all along, is that to raise taxes on the wealthy, it's to raise taxes on small business owners. Where is this fight, do you think, going to center? Is it going to center on, say, the difference between raising taxes on people who make $250,000 and those who make $1 million? Where is the room for negotiation?
I think the room for negotiations is on looking at issues of tax rates, looking at issues of deductions, looking at those areas. But I think there has to be a firmness on the part of Democrats, both in the Senate and the administration, that top 1% needs to pay its fair share. They have to be part of the solution, and to say that we just continue the Bush tax cuts forever without, with the exception of the middle class tax cut, I think is destined to keep us in this quagmire that we are economically in this country.
Your colleague, Texas Republican Congressman Jeb Hensarling, says the best time to work on a bipartisan basis is right after an election. Now, you have a situation where the president arguably got more votes and won by a wider margin than most people would have anticipated. You've gained seats in the House, gained in the Senate. How do you capitalize, or how does the president capitalize on that?
Well, I think we need to reflect on what the American people voted on. Exit polls say 60% plus feel that top 2%, that tax cut has to go away, and they have contribute their fair share to the economy. That's a consistent point. Revenue generation is a consistent point, and I think we need to stick to our guns on that.
All right, let me give you the other side of the equation, and this is from Newt Gingrich this morning. Some advice for Republicans.
No House Republican should be bamboozled into this idea that the only person who has a mandate is Barack Obama. The House Republicans have a mandate. It's fundamentally different than Obama's mandate. Boehner would be well put not to try to cut a deal with Obama, but instead to say, Paul Ryan's going to bring forth a solution to the fix. We're going to gather votes for it. I guarantee you'll get the right to have a Democratic substitute, and if you can get enough Republicans to vote for it, terrific.
What do you think about that, Congressman?
Well, I think the House is in Republican control. That is a consequence, quite frankly, more of redistricting, where a lot of state houses were Republican controlled, and it was the super PACs that were very effective in some House races. But the fact of the matter is we gained, and there's still 6 out there to be decided, and we could gain more. I think at the House level, for the House to continue the role it has played for 2 years is bad advice, and that's the advice that Newt is asking for. The issue, the famous statement, what I mean by compromise, I think that Cantor said, is that they have to agree with us. That's gone now. And the president has a pulpit now that he can take to the public on these issues and increase pressure on Congress, and I think he should do that as well.
There are a lot of other issues on the docket, whether it's in the lame duck or coming up in the new session of Congress. Gingrich also talked about the need for the Republican Party to come to grips with immigration after Mitt Romney's poor performance among Latino voters, when he got less than 30%. So I guess you could say it was an incredibly poor performance. Do you think Republicans will be more open to passing immigration reform now?
If it's not because of the goodness of their heart, or because it is an issue that has to be dealt with. It has to be out of political considerations and convenience. The loss in the Asian community, the loss in the Latino community for Romney and the Republican Party was huge. And this issue is driving that movement toward the Democratic Party. And so I suggest that this is an issue for the new Congress. It's doable. We can pass the DREAM Act. We can look at comprehensive immigration reform and stop talking about self-deportation, stop talking about enforcement only, and deal with the reality. I think the American people want us to do that, and the Republicans, that behooves them to listen and to come to the table with an open mind, and let's work on a package that is going to be both just and good for this country. And I think that's doable, and I think it's doable in the new Congress.
Arizona Congressman Raul Grijalva, always good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you.